This is VikesNow, and I am Dustin Baker back after about 10 or 11 days off. That'll probably be the longest layoff. It will be the longest layoff you have from this show and me until next year when my family and I go to Disney World. That's our summer vacation next year. But I'm back on a daily basis now. I'm still planning to go to London for the Vikings game, tentatively, assuming I can get tickets. And that'll be, a 5-6 day layoff. However, I am back for the rest of the summer and beyond, and we're going to get down to talk about the stuff that we haven't covered on the show. I've written about most of it on VikingsTerritory.com, but for the video part, I want to fill in the group for all of the items pertaining to the Vikings that have not been accounted for, as I perceive this show as a daily record of the Vikings. So there's about 7 or 8 things, believe it or not, and you can tell that training camp is picking up and NFL buzz in general. There's a lot more content out there, sexy topics and whatnot. So down the line for the Vikings, let's get to those. And these aren't in order of importance or anything. They're just the order that came to my mind. The first one was Nate Stanley was released by the Purple and Gold team, and he will hope to catch on elsewhere, probably as a QB3 or on some other team's practice squad. That might have been noteworthy for some of you Stanley heads, because he went to Iowa, and that's quasi-local. But he won't be a part of the 2022 Vikings, which means they are content with Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion going into training camp, which technically began yesterday on Sunday with rookies reporting, along with some veterans. But that means there's 89 dudes on the roster, and there's one spot available if they wanted to add some of the notable free agents we've spoken of on this show, like Eric Ebron, J.C. Treader, and Ndamukong Suh. There's one spot that needs to be filled, or they could just say, screw it, we're doing 89 guys instead of the customary 90. But Stanley was selected in the 2020 NFL draft in the 7th round. Anytime the Vikings select a quarterback, it's a big deal because the guy plays quarterback. And you think of the upside, the dude could eventually have a Tom Brady-like path to the NFL. Well, Stanley's not going to do that probably for anybody, but certainly not the Vikings, as in 2022, it'll be Kirk Cousins, Kellen Mond, and Sean Mannion leading the charge as signal callers. The interesting aspect to watch for this week and the next month is whether or not Kellen Mond can win the QB2 job. And then on this same topic, figure out if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah indeed signs a 90th player, and hopefully one of those scintillating names that could make an impact on the depth chart. So Stanley doesn't play here anymore, and they need one more player to get to 90. That's number one. Number two is Kyle Rudolph. The sweepstakes is over. After, a month-and-a-half long flirtation with perhaps rejoining the Vikings, he is not going to do that, at least not this year. He's going to chase rings in Tampa Bay, as he should. What a smart plan. He will join Tom Brady, who will be 45 next month, and Rob Gronkowski says he's definitely not coming back, and then one day you'll read he'll come back if Brady asked him. It's all over the damn board for Gronkowski. However, Rudolph ventures to Tampa, and if you start to look at this from various angles, he could end up being a valuable contributor down there. Why? Well, Cameron Brate is the incumbent TE1, and if you play fantasy football, you know that he's generally a disappointment. He doesn't do much. He's a good blocking tight end, but he's never taken off as a Rudolph-like red zone target or anything close to Gronkowski. So assuming that Brate can be shoved to the side for somebody who is sure-handed like Rudolph, there are 2 rookies that Rudolph would need to dethrone in Cade Otton and the Gopher Kieft. Probably said that wrong. Sue me. But yeah, so it's a crowded room, almost like every depth chart position in the NFL right now, because every team has 90 players. But Rudolph is exactly what Tom Brady covets. A sure-handed, dependable pass catcher that excels in the red zone. That's what Gronkowski was. Now, Rudolph's certainly not Gronkowski, but Brady built careers of guys who otherwise would have been anonymous in New England because they have those attributes that Kyle Rudolph does, especially in the red zone. So Rudolph probably went to the Buccaneers because he sees a pathway to get significant playing time. And he's not crazy old. He was underutilized in the Giants offense, and had he come back to the Vikings, he would have supported in a backup role Irv Smith Jr. and been a contingency plan in case Irv Smith Jr. gets hurt again. But now Rudolph can go try to win a championship ring, and it seems like Brady-led teams usually get to the dance and win the thing every other year. So that bodes well for Rudolph. Now, this could just be a complete footnote. Perhaps Cameron Brate finally figures it out, or Kate Naughton, the best thing you've ever seen in your life. If that does not happen, though, Rudolph should be set up for attention within the Buccaneers offense, and kudos to him. He will not, though, play for the Minnesota Vikings, even though he said 2 times, one to Paul Allen, and I think one on a Fox 9 interview or something, some sort of Minneapolis media interview, that he wanted to come back. No bones, he ain't coming back. What else hit while I was in Hawaii? Oh, the Madden rankings. I have to write about these because there's so much appetite about them in the Vikings digital space. For me, every time I see it, I'm like, all right, here's what the video game thinks. It's always funny when those ratings come out, how skewed they are towards veteran players. They ain't give rookies and second-year players no love. So take those with a grain of salt. Of note from the Madden rankings, your guy, Kirk Cousins, ranked 16th best in the NFL, a very on-brand ranking for the world's perception of him, right in the middle, 16 times 2 equals 32. Even Steven Madden ranking for the quarterback who has an even Steven quarterback record at 59, 59, and 2. So Cousins is 16th best quarterback according to John Madden's people. Dalvin Cook got some respect. He was the NFL's 5th best running back. We'll take it. Justin Jefferson, a little disrespect, especially in these circles on shows like this. The 6th best wide receiver. I think his ranking was a 93. And Jefferson notably said while I was gone that he thinks he'll be the best by the time this season is over. He showed some deference to Devontae Adams as the top dog right now, which is fair. But Jefferson expects to be the best player or best wide receiver in the NFL by the end of 2022. And once again, we will take it. And then in that same sentiment of veterans getting the kudos from Madden makers, Harrison Smith was considered the 7th best safety in football. More or less a Lifetime Achievement Award, but once you start jotting them down, you'd be hard-pressed to put Harrison Smith out of the top 12 or so. So we'll take the Madden ranking. I can't remember exactly what his score was, but he is considered the 7th best safety in football. Interesting, though, in those rankings, Adam Thielen was perceived as a better wide receiver and has a better rating than Jamar Chase. I wrote about that one on Vikings territory. Figure that one out. A little odd. But yes, Madden rankings are out, and Minnesota is considered I think it was 20th best team in football. So they were high on some of the individual playmakers, but just like the rest of the power ranking community, the Vikings are anywhere from the 20, 21st, 22nd best team in the world. And any enthusiasm you see about them seem to be one-offs, whether it was Dan Orlovsky calling a sleeper team or Colin Cowherd, who first said that the Vikings would go 16-1 in his infamous double their win total. Now Cowherd scaled it back and said, whoa, homie, they're only going 13-4, which we'll take it. That means a division crowned, and the way things shake out, maybe even a first-round bye. The next thing, this one didn't make huge headlines, but it was certainly informative from the Vikings' perspective, was Kwesi Adofo-Mensah did an interview with Jory Epstein from the USA Today, where he talked about, among other items, his thought process at quarterback and what he was thinking when he took the job. And in this sit-down or this phone call with Miss Epstein, he said that what we already know, that in Kirk Cousins you don't have Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. Breaking news, right? But he also talked about why he doubled down sticking with Cousins, and he essentially said that Cousins is the best option for this football team in 2022. And I think I've said that similarly, and I think that is, when it comes down to bracket tasks, who else were you going to get, especially in this draft class? You could have made a play for Kenny Pickett. Great, fine. Maybe he'll be wonderful. Maybe he'll be shitty. Who knows? Otherwise, you could have selected Malik Willis anywhere in the draft. The Vikings passed on him about 3 different times, but this sentiment that's always out there in the digital stratosphere is the Vikings need to draft their Mahomes or find the next Mahomes. Adofo-Mensah didn't see that guy available during his first year on the job. And why would you just embrace that philosophy when you certifiably don't think that the next Mahomes is marinating in a draft class. That's why you have Kirk Cousins. And Offense also said that he thinks with a good degree of certainty that he'll be able to identify who that is more so than other general managers, which is wonderful news. He just wasn't available at this juncture. In this point in time in 2022, there was nobody who was juicy enough to go up and select in the draft or to trade for. And in terms of enthusiasm and trading for Deshaun Watson, I'm very glad they didn't do that. Russell Wilson, we'll see how that experiment plays off. That would have been pretty cool if the Vikings could have swung a deal for him. But in a revealing interview, you have Kirk Cousins, per Adolph Mensa, on the team again because it was the best thing going for this year. And why not pair him with his old employer, Kevin O'Connell, who just whisked Matthew Stafford to a Super Bowl with the help of Sean McVay in Los Angeles. And every time you turn around and think about, wow, how good are these Vikings going to be? The goal is to emulate what the Rams did with Stafford, because whether you like it or not, Stafford was a loser until he arrived in Los Angeles. And within 1 year, he is a winner, and he is immortalized, eternalized because of that Super Bowl ring. So if the Vikings can nibble at just a little bit of that, transforming Cousins into Stafford from Detroit to Los Angeles, bada bing. You've got the long-standing goal and the vision all along. So yeah, go Google Kwesi Adolphus-Mensah, Jory Epstein, and read some of that takeaway. It's pretty fascinating. The next one is Kyle Slaughter. Slaughter. He gained NFL employment after a successful showing in the USFL. His New Orleans Breakers made it all the way to the semifinal. They lost. He was an MVP candidate for the league. He was All-Pro or All-USFL, whatever the hell they call their All-Pro teams. And now he'll join the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is very interesting because their depth chart behind Trevor Lawrence isn't insurmountable. They have C.J. Beathard, and they had some guy named E.J. Perry, I think it was, but E.J. Perry got cut to make room for Slaughter. So Slaughter could feasibly be a QB3 or QB2 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if you're a Slaughter head or Slaughter face, whatever it is they called themselves, this will be his best chance to actually see some NFL action and not be stuck on some team's practice squad, because that's what always happened with the Vikings, and he rarely caught on elsewhere. Although this is his 7th team in the NFL, he's never thrown a regular season pass. Now, he's not going to overtake Trevor Lawrence for the QB1 job, but hey, people get hurt. Trevor Lawrence could break his leg tomorrow. And in that vein, they'd have to scramble and find some sort of Cam Newton contingency plan, or have a battle royale with Beathard and Kyle Slaughter. The overall takeaway is this is good news for Slaughter because he'll, at 28 years old, get an honest-to-goodness look as a team's backup quarterback, which he arguably has not had. So all the props to him and his performance in the USFL, and your preseason pristine visions of him could come to fruition if he actually gets time on a regular season playing field. The last two items. Finally, Ed Ingram and Andrew Booth are in the house. They signed on the first day of training camp, which was yesterday. And the draft puzzle is complete. There are no more rookies outstanding waiting to have their contract signed. Everybody is in the house and in camp. And Ingram and Booth were part of that second-round logjam. But now they will be in training camp, and they're kind of in the same space for 2022 projection. Where they were drafted in round 2, they should, in time, start for the Vikings. However, with Ingram, he's in the middle of a 3-way battle with Jesse Davis from the Miami Dolphins and Chris Reed from the Indianapolis Colts, a 3-pronged solution to finally fix the damn RG woes that have troubled the Vikings since 2018. And Booth, he's not guaranteed a starting job, but he'll be damned if he's not going to give it a whirl. Cameron Dantzler and Patrick Peterson are probably considered the front runners to start on the outside of Ed Donatell's new 3-4 defense, but Booth was a first-round kind of a first-round theory by some mock drafters, but ultimately, because of a sports hernia injury, fell to the second round, and the Vikings pounced. So Booth should start sooner than later, so should Ingram, but as training camp, preseason, and week one are upon us, I don't know if either one of them will start right away, but the long game is that they will. So now they're officially part of the Vikings. And the final thing that I'll mention is that in their social media blitz yesterday, first day of training camp, the Vikings posted a video of Ihmir Smith-Marsette actually dancing into camp, saying that he was ready to chase a ring. Some folks had a fun time with that because the Vikings never won a ring. They can go to hell. The people that said that is. But Ihmir Smith-Marsette didn't participate in June's minicamp because of a leg injury, and he walked around the joint in a boot. Well, that boot wasn't on him yesterday, and he looked like he was in good shape reporting to camp. Otherwise, it was just a very skilled video to give off good vibes. I think the takeaway is that Smith-Marsette is indeed upright and healthy, and he can contend for his WR4 job, which he arguably won at the end of last year. I think he was targeted 6 times altogether in 2021 as a rookie, and he caught 2 touchdowns, so a third of the time he was scoring pay dirts, and he had 100-something yards. So along with Jalen Naylor, B.C. Johnson, Albert Wilson, there will be a WR4 battle, and there was a little paranoia about 6 weeks ago that Ihmir Smith-Marsette had a leg injury that could turn into Danielle Hunter from 2020, and we'll never see him during his second year. That appears to be incorrect, as Smith-Marsette is upright and should, for the most part, be a go unless he shows up magically on the physically unable to perform list, which should hit any day. I was talking to my colleague Wes Johnson, who's also I vacationed with in Hawaii, and he was asking when the PUP list, is it coming out here or what's the deal? And I said, well, it should be out by now, so maybe they just don't have anybody, which would be very good for this Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell honeymoon phase. But that's what I got for VikesNow today. The Nate Stanley released. We have 89 players on the roster. Kyle Rudolph did not join the Vikings. He went to the Bucs. Mad rankings are out. Some people love him. The Kwesi Adofo-Mensah interview explaining his quarterback thought process. There was nobody better available right now than Kirk Cousins. Who'd have thunk it? Kyle Slaughter ends up in the AFC with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ingram and Booth signed on the dotted line after 2 months worth of what the hell you doing, gentlemen. And then Ihmir Smith-Marsette seems to be healthy with training camp officially beginning on Sunday. I'll be back tomorrow with some training camp predictions. I think I'll get those on record. I wrote about them. If you want a sneak peek, you can find those at VikingsTerritory.com. And then later this week, Josh Fry will join us, I think, on Thursday. And then probably Janik from Germany will be on Friday if I can connect with him. That's all I got. And Skol, baby.